Sheriff.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, man. How you been?
We've been a little busy.
Yeah?
We've been a little busy. Yeah,
A little bit.
Of course, the officer involved shooting up at
Right.
Nocatee, Ponte Vedra area was a few weeks ago.
I want to talk about that in a little while. Yeah.
And of course, it feels like I know it's been over the last month or so. Of course, we had that shooting on 95. Of course, we had that car chase with the carjacker out of Jacksonville that crashed down in Flagler County that went through our county. Just a lot going on. A lot going on in our little county here.
Well, let's start with the fact that you were just in a chase. Was this yesterday?
Well, it wasn't. It
was a little bit of a chase.
I got on the radio yesterday. I can't remember what time. It was maybe 1-ish, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was on 95 southbound, and there was a little car coming basically behind me with a loud muffler. Traffic was bad because it was raining on 95 southbound, and I could see like the lights kind of, going lane to lane behind me, but there's not a lot of places to go because it was pretty backed up. It was moving, but it was backed up. Well, he eventually makes it up to me and passed on the kind of like the breakdown lane and kind of weaved back in and out of traffic. So I caught up to him just north of the 214 bridge base overpass. And I got rear in his rear end and ran his tag, and then he decided to step on a little bit and shift gear because you could hear the muffler changing gears on me. So I stayed with him. We went about maybe a mile. I thought he was going to run, so I got on the radio.
Were there lights on at this point?
Yeah,
Did you have lights on?
Yeah, my lights and siren on.
Whoa.
So my lights and siren on. Just maybe a mile. I got on the radio with our dispatch and said, St. John's, I don't think he's going to stop. So we went about a mile or so. And then he eventually stopped on top of the County Road 214, or the railroad tracks. Right there before you get to 207.
Yeah.
Okay, between 214 and 207. He stopped right on top of that bridge, which gave me no room to get out, So I thought we were just going to do the old standoff for a minute, and then he was going to speed away. Yeah. But he didn't know that I was in Rocket Ship 1.
I was going to say, was he going to be able to get away from you?
No, that little four-banger wouldn't have made it from me. So anyway, so we sat there for a minute. I was waiting for another backup unit just because it was just so dangerous. And cars can't get over on 95. I'm just too busy out there. Yeah. It's such a dangerous area. So I just sat there for a minute, and then eventually he turns on his hazards, and he rolls off the bridge down into the grass area, like, on the south end of the bridge there. And then he opens his car door, and I walk up to him, after I ran his tag and stuff, and we start talking, and he advised me he was on felony probation for felony murder. Whoa! Out of another state. So very cooperative guy, actually. So of course other units were coming to me and stuff, but he had a valid license, and he told me I could search his car. Of course he's on probation anyway. So, he was very cooperative. He was, whatever. And I said, "Were you going to run?" He's like, I don't think he was going to confess the fact he was going to run from me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That might he's like, I was just trying to figure out what kind of car you're in, because that's not like the normal car I see on 95.
Oh, okay.
So cause I'm in unmarked with lights, of course.
Sure.
So so it was that's the story of my life.
Was your adrenaline up, or like what goes on in your mind when you're going through that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't get
like a focus mode, or like
I don't get rattled too easy.
Yeah.
So then I ended up cutting loose because I said, "Listen, I'm cutting you loose because you're cooperative. You got to fix."
I'm sorry. I just picture you in there during this intense high-speed police chase, and he's just kind of sitting back with the massage seats on. Yeah. Sipping some coffee. Okay.
That's pretty much.
This idiot.
It was laughing because the night we were in the pursuit when Tyler Quinney got shot at. I think I told you about that.
Yeah.
Kendall and I were in that pursuit, and I was drinking a cup of coffee, and Kendall was riding shotgun, but one of my deputies was shot at. This is back during the hurricane last year.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I was drinking a cup of coffee. I'm pretty talented, but Kendall if I do say so myself.
I'm very humble. Very humble guy.
It's so funny because Kendall, if she's riding with me, she'll run the lights and sirens, or I just drive and drink coffee.
Wow.
You guys really are a great team for this.
This gross.
I'd be crouching in the back, like,
and she's so relaxed.
Oh my goodness.
So
I think that would be fun. Can I sign on to just be your police chase unit, where if there's a police chase, you guys just call me?
You're like my official reporter,
and I'm in on it.
Like you're my live PD.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. That, or I want to be the pit guy. I'll put pits on people.
I told you guys you can come to that training. It's in our CALIA class. We do pits in our CALIA class.
Really?
In our Citizen Law Enforcement Academy.
Oh.
Yeah. If you guys want to come and do some pit stuff, that's easy stuff that we do all the time. And I hate to say this, you train, and you don't really use some of the training.
Sure.
Well, when I became the sheriff, this pit training it's precision training. So when I became the sheriff, I'm like, okay, let's use this training. Well, the next thing you know, we started using it. We're not damaging hardly anything, even the offenders' cars. We're just scaring the poo out of them, You're in a rotation, you're like, what just happened?
Well, and you have to be careful when and where you use a technique like that, right?
There's going to be some situations we've had in the past where you have a violent criminal act that just occurred, and we have to stop that offender.
Right.
So we kind of step outside the rule box, meaning that this is how you're trained at pit cars, but this is what you got to do to save lives.
Yeah.
So, and we're not big fans of chasing cars, all of God's creation. That's just so dangerous, and some people get hurt. So we've really stepped back going, if you're going to run in the first I'm exaggerating, but the first 20 feet, you're going to run for 20 miles. So let's just get you in the beginning of it when it's safe. Yeah. So our deputies have really, man, our men and women that work for the sheriff's office, I'm telling you, these kids are phenomenal people. They're unreal. And they got this stuff down to a science. And, it's like with the body worn cameras, everybody's like, no, Sheriff, what are you doing? The best thing we did, what an ignorant sheriff I was by not saying do it earlier at the Beach PD or do it earlier in my career. We could not live without those body worn cameras yesterday. I get to review the excuse me. I get to review the story when Michael Kunovich is killed in the line of duty and be able to go back and tell his sons how he died. I think that's important, I'm the one that gets to go back and call the citizen out if they exaggerate on my deputy sheriffs and make a false claim that is probably going to be in their file the rest of their lives. I'm the one that gets to review, not necessarily me, but our team, instead of going and doing all these interviews from Ponte Vedra and Nocatee, all these kids and parents that watch this horrific incident, up in Nocatee just a few weeks ago, now you push play and you write the report based on what the camera says. It's accurate, clear, concise, and factual.
Right.
And my deputy sheriffs are just, I was hesitant to put it on, as you all know. I was ignorant. I went against it in the very beginning, and I'm like, okay, why are we fighting this?
Yeah, because that was a big question when we did our first interview in the campaign.
Yeah, during the campaign. It was a big question.
But I also remember you telling me during that time that the sheriff's office will have body-worn cameras.
Just when. Well, I think we said it's not a fact of when we're going to, it's just we're going to have them. It's just what the timeline's going to be based on, when we can afford them. We could never go back off those things. It's the best thing we ever did. And then now my deputy sheriffs get to give a statement based on what the camera says and what they're wearing on the front of their person. So again, I think it's also too, and we get to answer to these families and these victims when we get there during these critical incidents where you can't go back and recreate what happened at the time of the incident, but my deputy sheriff show up on scene, whether it's a fight in progress or a murder just occurred or a traffic crash with death. It's recreated for these families and victims to retell the story and kind of give them closure sometimes. So it's the best thing we ever did. So anyways, just again, sorry, go ahead, Troy.
I can tell you right now, you're talking about how talented your drivers are. In Leadership St. John's, we were allowed to do the whole obstacle thing, and we drove through the whole obstacle. And we all did our times and stuff like that. Yeah. I won for the class. The guy who was the instructor for the sheriff department gets in the car and does it backwards.
Really?
Beats me by 3 seconds.
Wow.
And he said to me, that's as fast as I could go because the car shuts off at 60 miles an hour going
Seriously?
backwards.
Yeah, true statement.
And it was, it was incredibly backwards. And he used his mirror. He didn't drive like this. It was so impressive.
Yeah,
I was like,
cool.
all right, I am never running from the cops.
Well, it's funny you said it because, you talk about, people kind of, I wouldn't say here in St. John's but people take stabs at you going, hey, why do you have that multi-million-dollar training facility? Why do you have a drive-in track? And then next thing you know, you have an incident up in Ponte Vedra that ends up in Nocatee in front of a bunch of kids and families that are just innocent playing, soccer games.
Yeah, let's talk about that because that must have been a scary situation.
That's what training all
for everybody
together.
involved.
It is,
right?
And I'll kind of give the 5-second version because it's a longer version now that we have all the facts in place. But it basically started at 5, just before 6 a.m. in the morning time, where we had basically a burglary in progress of a storage facility. Well, a lot of these storage facilities have some type of apartment either on it, connected to it, and that's kind of where the keeper stays per se. This particular one up near TPC headquarters on Palm Valley Road did have that. So the guy that lives in the apartments, that's the caretaker of the property, heard basically a burglary going on, and it's still dark at 6 o'clock in the morning. So he calls 911. We show up there. Our deputy sheriffs, again, the training of just getting inside a building and facility and clearing the hallways. And then they find a female there that had cut numerous ones. So she's in the process of stealing. They detain her, put her in custody. And then she basically, who you with, but kind of, by the way. So we don't know why the male had left prior to us getting there. We don't know if he was spooked or ditched her. We don't really know. But anyway, she kind of gives us a basic, hey, he's a guy named Dustin. He's driving this color vehicle kind of thing. Well, with our modern technology, again, this is where license plate readers come in again. You have a known felon in the area that's committing crimes. So he pops up on the license plate reader. We verify it is Dustin. He's driving this color vehicle.
Was that pretty soon after you got the report from her? Were you able to tap into those?
Minutes later. Yeah. And our communications operators, our 911 operators, start going through the research and basically send the picture of the truck with the male suspect in there from the back with the plate on there.
Wow.
So now we know he's in the area. Yeah. Our deputy sheriffs go to work. What we didn't know at the time was he had went somewhere and parked and was basically, knocked out from the drugs use. Well, one of our female deputy sheriffs, Deputy Parker, she's phenomenal. She finds him under the Palm Valley Bridge at the new at the new boat ramp side. So it's the west side of the Palm Valley Bridge. She pulls up on him, and I don't watch body cam. I've watched a few for, again, I talked about the officer deaths and stuff like that, and I'll eventually watch this. But I did watch the camera from the Palm Valley Bridge, which is directly on the incident. She does it by the book. All this training always pays off. She gets out of her car. She approaches the vehicle. She verifies the tag. She verifies he's in the vehicle, and she opens the door and tries to take him out to detain him. And the fight is on. He tries to pull her into the vehicle. She props her foot on the A-frame door frame, and she's yanking him out. He slams the door on her. She breaks the window with her flashlight. It was phenomenal police work. She takes her taser out. She shoots him with her taser, and then she draws her weapon out and goes to the back side. And she was going to take him out of the car. Little did we know at the time he's going for a firearm. Wow. So by the grace of God, once again, always watching over us, we didn't have a deputy sheriff shot at. So this is how dedicated it was. She actually grabs the tailgate of the vehicle when he's driving off, and she contemplates jumping in the vehicle, back of the vehicle. That's how our deputies are. I say crazy, but in a good way. But anyway, so car pursuit doesn't go very far because you think Palm Valley Bridge to Ponte Vedra High School, basically.
It's not that far.
Well, other deputy sheriffs are coming the other way, which was Deputy DeLay and Deputy Corporal Carbalusa. They're coming basically at her on the old Palm Valley Road, basically. So he turns into like Ponte Vedra High School. Well, down there, she makes a decision that she knows what's going on Davis Park on weekends. She rams him. She basically rams him at the intersection of Davis Park Road and the Ponte Vedra High School Road right there. She rams right by Crosswater Church.
Right where they split.
She rams him and disables him. He spins up and goes into like a little retention pond. And then while the vehicle's moving, he exits the vehicle with a firearm. This is what she says on the radio. She says he's armed with a firearm. So Carbalusa and DeLay actually turn into this compound, and he is running towards the new soccer field where almost 1,000 kids and parents are there gathered there playing.
With a gun in his hand.
Running down the sidewalk from me to Davey, from the fence line where the kids are at, the sidewalk, and he's running down along the vehicles with a firearm in his hand. He takes up a defensive position so he's right next to the field. He takes up a defensive position. Carbalusa actually is in his truck and exits his truck. They have him kind of pinned in, and then that's, of course, where the shots are fired. And from what I've been told, I haven't watched the body cameras yet, but other units are responding. We have kids on the field that are being covered up by their parents.
Oh my God.
That's what we had to deal with. But this is how our deputy sheriffs respond. One goes to work on him medically, and then one goes over to the fence and starts checking on kids. All this is going on. We just shot somebody. He just shot at us.
Right.
And their first thought is to go over and check on the kids and families on the field. It's just the craziest thing. So we've already met with one of the soccer teams, and I think you saw it online. We gave them some stuffed animals. So we're going to meet with all the soccer teams and just try to make sure that these, of course, they're saying we're heroes. I say they're heroes too as well, because they did the right thing. They lay on the ground. But whatever, the highest
what
power.
A scary moment.
Seriously. For everybody.
If he would have if he would have just simply ran into the gate from me to you, we'd have an active shooter on that field. That's basically, he's barricaded with kids around. So he's, again, just a crazy situation. So we'll close everything up. The deputies will eventually come back to work. We had two that shot. Deputy Parker did not shoot. She didn't have an angle to shoot, because she's on a foot pursuit.
Right.
So she gets up kind of when after but Corporal Carbalusa and Deputy DeLay were the two shooters on our side, of course, and the suspect on their side.
So what does that process look like for them after a shooting like that? So do they come off the street for a little bit and make sure
decompress?
Everything's. It has to be emotional.
It is. It's an emotional drain. And I've talked to them. I don't talk about the case with them, but I talk to them to make sure, of course, their families and everybody are good, because once everything's settled down. So we immediately provide attorneys to them that we pay for, of course, that will cover that end for them. So they immediately go to work as far as getting their statements and stuff like that. But we immediately provide mental health services, the therapy dogs, faith-based services. We want them to see their families pretty quick. And it's kind of hard because you remove their patrol car, their livelihood from their house.
Right.
You remove their firearms from their person. But we also give them back, other firearms, additional firearms. We also give them back an unmarked vehicle usually too as well. But before they come back to work, they go back through mental health, psychological services, clear them. They go back through a physical, and eventually they'll come back to work once. And then our independent review is the Office of the State Attorney. So the Office of the State Attorney will get that book. They'll do an independent review and investigation. And then, of course, we'll get a clearance letter from the state.
And it's obviously something they're trained to do, but something nobody wants to have to do. I can remember, there was an incident that I was at a couple of years ago. And I remember seeing closer video from that. It was a shooting out there on Old Dixie.
Yeah.
where he charged at you guys with weapons.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing up close the officer who had to fire the shot. He made this gesture afterwards, like, damn it.
Yeah.
Why did I not want to have to do that?
Right.
I did not want to do that.
You can say what you want about the law enforcement officers, and I'm just going to speak for my agency, of course, because it is our agency here in St. Johns County. These men and women, this is not what they want to be in life, and I never want to be there in life either. Whether it be in the military, whether in the army, no one wants to be in these situations. You can say all day long that we're out here. Yes, we are accurate with our firearms, because if we do take that lethal shot, the goal is to eliminate the threat. Because the threat is causing. The guy's got a firearm with kids around. I don't need to explain any further than that.
Right. Yeah.
Our job is to protect these children, these families. That's our job. And
Yep.
when you see the results of this, because they'll come to public record when it closes out, our deputy sheriffs take a position between the field, the kids, and the shooter. Mm-hmm. It's emotional. It's crazy. Yeah. But anyway, they'll be back to work here hopefully soon, because they got to get back where this is their family. I know their family's at home, but they need to get back, of course, too, in the uniform and get around the agency, because it's like you're ostracized temporarily. Mm-hmm. But I think we got a great process in place.
No, you guys have an amazing team. And we're really
so blessed,
thankful.
brother. Yeah. So blessed.
Yeah. I can tell you, last night on Bollocks, I did the greatest lawman.
Oh, yeah?
And you're on the top of my list.
Oh, brother, man. It gets emotional.
in this room.
Yeah. You just went back
in this room.
You just went back down.
Yeah, definitely falling way off the charts today. Darn it.
Yeah. No, from the bottom up, it's you, Clay, and then these two.
No, we're sincere. We're really appreciative.
Yeah,
you're the guy. You're the guy holding the steering wheel for us.
Yeah. It's we know, as you know, I vicarious liability. I'm responsible for their actions, and I get personal. People ask me about why do you have body cameras and why are you paying that? And I think we just talked about that.
Yeah.
Why are you buying a new helicopter? And I try to say that there's more to just policing than in a patrol car. We keep this county safe with other tools too as well. And no one knows, but I was laughing. I wrote down Bozard Ford is 74 years old. Our helicopter's 53 years old.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. What's going on with that helicopter? Is it time to replace that thing?
Well, it's not as easy as you think. So we have two helicopters. David Shore actually bought a used one from Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. It was a 2013. But there's a reason why they got rid of it too as well. Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office sold it 2013. We bought it, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. So we have that one in the fleet, but then our other ones, we have two, which makes sense. One's up, one's down kind of thing with maintenance and stuff like that. So the other one is a 1969. It was used in Vietnam. It's called an OH-58.
What?
Oh, yeah. It's a Vietnam helicopter. It's 1033 program, they call it. So we got it through the federal government.
Bell. It was a Bell.
Yeah, it's a Bell OH-58. So it was used in Vietnam, and then it goes to surplus, and we got it in surplus. I think I know under Sheriff Perry. I just don't know what year that Sheriff Perry actually got this helicopter. Wow. But it's 1969.
I can tell you it was definitely under Sheriff Perry.
By far.
Because I took, whenever storms would come through, we had to do evaluations, and Chuck was the pilot.
Oh, yeah, Chuck.
And
Chuck
and I went out a little too early, and we literally dropped like maybe 200 feet in elevation. I was like, Chuck, take me back.
Take me back.
Just take me back.
Yeah.
And I'm a guy who likes to fly.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, it's too soon. We'll go back out. We went out the next day, but it was like, oh, no, we're going back.
But it's funny, you talk about these helicopters. We can't operate like helicopters because the goal is, of course, the eyes in the sky. That's what picks up and gets us off these car chases where if we have that violent suspect, we have that person we're looking for, They flew 600 missions last year, not including their regular patrol hours. Wow. But I can't keep a 1969 helicopter because what's happening now is, and I hate that I'm even here discussing it, but it's the taxpayers' dollars, yes. And they're saying, well, how much is this thing, Sheriff? Well, it's a $6 million purchase, but I don't purchase it right now. It's like buying a car. So it's a seven year, I can go longer out basically where we pay, for a loan on it. Mm-hmm. But I just 3 or 4 months ago, my newer helicopter, the 2013, was down for 3 months in Louisiana with corrosion on the bottom. And we were glad to give it back. So just little things like that, that this community is so good to us. I know they don't question me when we bring these things up. It's like, Sheriff, why are you getting a helicopter? You know darn well we're getting a helicopter. We keep your community safe. Yeah. Between technology, our deputies on the road, our jail doing reentry, our boats in the water, our helicopters in the sky, we keep you safe. We want you to go to bed at nighttime or daytime, some of you sleep, and we want you to be safe. And with that comes these I call them toys, but they're not. They're tools of the trade. Yeah. We don't use that for executive transport of the sheriff. Right. The only place I went for a long ride in that thing was down to check on my troops in a hurricane in Charlotte County last year, and I think that was the right thing to do with another sheriff. Mm-hmm. So,
so do you know the one that you want?
Well, it's pretty easy because
Black Hawk. I don't know the term.
No, you know, with our pilots, of course, I'm a uniformity guy. I like the one we have now, which is the Bell 407. So we're just getting a newer version of the Bell 407, and then we'll churn this either back into the 1033 program
for a museum or something.
Which is sad, we get nothing out of it because all this money we spend into it, we get nothing. But the other helicopters we buy, you sell them. It's like a car. You sell them, get your money back.
Right.
But yeah, so what?
So you're saying you donate the old helicopters because
to the Weather Channel?
Yeah. No. They have the money. They have the money.
Yeah, they have
to buy a new.
Don't even start this rumor. You can never donate. The federal government physically takes it back and
do they really?
It has to by law.
Oh, okay. See, I was hoping we were going to get our news.
Well, don't forget the 1969 helicopter it belongs to the federal government. It's been on loan for us. We've just paid for it for all these years.
Okay.
So so they don't really do that anymore like they used to back in the old days. But
that thing's only 2 years younger than me.
Seriously, I had to laugh the other day. And it's like I said, what year is that damn thing? 1969. I'm like, my God, it's older than me.
I think the United States Mosquito Control has a newer helicopter.
Everybody has newer helicopters than us.
They don't even need a helicopter.
It's so funny when we landed at Nocatee, for the National Night Out, I was like, Sheriff, you can't afford a better helicopter than that. I was like, don't even get me started.
Wind me up.
But anyway, so I appreciate you.
Yeah. So what's going on at the Hardwick Hotel? You guys put in a pool?
Yeah.
We see
Do not start that movement for God's sake. No, we're putting it
Every hotel needs a pool.
Are you familiar with the spa? I'm just kidding. No, so what we're doing is, of course, we have one rec yard for our inmates, and there's some laws out there. Of course, they have to have some type of fresh air, basically. So under the Florida Model Jail Standards Act, which I'm on that board, there's some things we have to do. So we have one rec yard. Well, about 2 months ago, we noticed that we had some things basically falling off the sides of the rec yard. It's a big concrete structure with a chain link roof on it. That's probably about 20 feet tall. So we noticed so we did an inspection of it, and the beams needed to be inspected by engineers because there was a lot of corrosion. I mean, they're probably 30 or 40 years old. So we had to shut the rec yard down. Well, when you coop people up in cells for a long time and don't give them fresh air, things start to get dangerous. So anyway, so we had to build a secondary rec yard over there. Mike Davis, we've already had our conversation, so don't tear me up. But anyways, so we were building a secondary rec yard for our minimum custody inmates. It'll be males and females over there. You really won't be able to see them because there'll be basically a tennis screen on this side over here. So just a secondary recreation yards. There'll be no violent felons out there or people that are waiting death row per se. Right. It's all going to be minimum custody misdemeanors and low level felonies that will have their rec yard space over here. So we have another rec yard in case the other one closes down again.
Yeah, I almost called you last week. The doors were open. The ones that open to nowhere.
The maintenance doors.
A lot of questions on those. I love those questions. Yeah,
and they were open. And I was like, someone, and because I was leaving Mike's show, and I look up and I was like, I've never seen them open before.
Yeah.
And they were open. I was like, what's going on? And then finally somebody was, I guess it's the maintenance area inside of there.
You can't get out of it.
It was one of those situations where I was like, someone left the door open.
Don't call 911. We got a jumper.
I was going to call you and video it and say, you left the door
That's probably my number one question I've got since I've been the sheriff. Is like, why do you have escape hatches for all your inmates? I was like, if they can fit through a toilet bowl, then they'll escape.
Absolutely.
That's all they can flush themselves.
That's all the utilities and how to get.
Yes, sir.
Right, it's pipes, it's mechanisms, it's walled off from the
how was your Veterans Day? I saw you did something over at St. Joe's.
Oh my goodness, the Veterans Day thing. Kendall and I hustle so much just because of my 25 years, and now of course our son's a 10-year veteran with the Army, so we hustle. But the Veterans thing was emotional. Had a lieutenant colonel there from the Air Force there. Had a sergeant from the Marine Corps there retired. Had a colonel, Army Ranger there retired. And then him and I have crossed paths in our career, and the kids were phenomenal. Good questions, and so that's their veterans project they do every year, but they do it all year long. Yeah, and then of course every year Bill Dudley and the Veterans Council. It's such a huge event over there. So hit that one, then hit a veterans. We like the Del Webb veterans event too as well because the whole neighborhood's like veterans. So you get there and they talk about. There's actually a couple World War II, maybe one Korean up there, and then a lot of Vietnam.
The stories,
oh my goodness gracious! I'm humbled to. Our community is amazing.
They are
in so many ways. And then next thing you do, we identified 160 out of my 1,000 employees, just easy numbers. We identified 160 veterans in my agency that have served or are serving. So we had a pinning ceremony. So I wear Army and American flag. So we bought these for the entire agency. If you've served or you're serving over a year, I think is what we did.
How cool
we had a ceremony with I think we had 70 or 80 show up on that day.
I love that.
And then you start telling stories about one of my guys was on the aircraft carrier that deployed the fighters that went and engaged with the Russians back, years ago. He was the one that was shooting off basically the fighter jets off the aircraft carrier deck. Those are the stories we actually shared. So we got a lot of Vietnam vets. Actually, we don't. I'm sorry. We had about 6 or 8 Vietnam vets. That story always is emotional to me. And then we had just a lot of people that raised their right hand voluntarily and served.
Yeah.
One drafted in our agency.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty powerful. Yeah. A lot of females too.
It's funny. I did trivia like the day before Veterans Day, and I had all my veterans stand up that were there. And I have an older crowd, and a lot of those guys were the Vietnam guys and stuff like that. And like out of the 15 people that actually stood up that served, 5 of them were Vietnam, and all 5 of them were drafted.
No, kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, 5 of them were drafted.
Of course, you had the Marine Corps birthday on Friday, Veterans Day on Saturday,
right?
And we have quite a few Marines, of course, in our agencies that have honorably served. So again, it's just emotional day for me.
And they were told not to wear their uniforms.
Correct.
Not to wear their new uniforms when they came home. But their haircuts gave them away, is what he said. He said it didn't matter if you were in the military, you had short hair. If you weren't, you had long hair, and that's how people still would just
kind of crazy. Major General, most of you know Major General Bailey. He's from here. Major General Bailey one time, Ken and I were at an event, and he says, if you're a Vietnam vet, it was like a black tie event. He said, if you're a Vietnam vet, stand up. So they stood up. There was probably 10 or 15 in the crowd. He said, we owe you a standing ovation, because when we came home, like me, came home from my combat tours, free tickets to SeaWorld, and, people were applauding us in the airports with signs. But when you came home, not all of you, but a lot of you were spit on, called rapers, baby rapers and all this stuff. And, I mean, so everybody, it was emotional, but now I've been doing the same thing that Major General's been doing. And people will come to me at the end and say, you're the first person that's ever recognized me and gave a standing ovation. It's like you want to cry, that this country turned our back on people that either raised their right hand or said, you're voluntold, you're going. You don't have a choice.
Right.
I don't get it, but I get it now.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was one of the things. He was called a baby killer.
Yeah, crazy, right?
The gentleman I was talking
horrible.
To. It's
crazy.
Terrible.